Mary was 16 when they came for her. No warning, no goodbye. She wasn't a criminal. She hadn't done anything wrong. But she was a girl who got pregnant outside of marriage. And in 1960s Ireland, that was enough to make her a pariah. The church didn't offer help. They didn't offer sympathy. Instead, they offered one solution: the Magdalene Laundry. The Magdalene Laundries weren't new. They had existed for over a century by then, starting in the 18th century as institutions supposedly meant to help fallen women reform their lives. Run by Catholic nuns, the laundries initially took in prostitutes and other women society deemed immoral. But by the 20th century, the scope had expanded. Women like Mary, pregnant outside of marriage, rebellious, or simply too difficult, were sent there to be hidden away. The laundries promised reform and salvation. What they delivered was abuse, forced labor, and silence. Once Mary entered the gates, her identity was stripped from her. Her name was erased. She became just another number. She spent her days washing and ironing clothes for hospitals, hotels, and schools, unpaid, while the nuns profited from her toil. The nuns weren't kind. They punished the women for the smallest infractions. Talking out of turn, resisting orders, even crying too loudly, could result in beatings or days without food. Mary wasn't used to such cruelty. She didn't understand why no one cared about her pain or her baby. Her child had been taken from her at birth. That was standard practice. The church facilitated the adoption of these children, often selling them to wealthy families in the United States or elsewhere. Mothers were given no choice, no information. Some were told their babies had died, even when they hadn't. Mary's baby boy was sent to America. She never saw him again. The church claimed it was doing God's work, saving the children from their mothers' supposed sins. Thousands of children were trafficked this way. Their mothers left to grieve in silence. By the mid-20th century, tens of thousands of women and girls had passed through Ireland's Magdalene laundries. Some were as young as 13. Many never made it out. They were buried in unmarked graves behind the laundries, their lives erased from the records. In the 1990s, one such grave was uncovered at a former laundry in Dublin. It contained the remains of 155 women. Most had died of neglect, malnutrition, or untreated illnesses. The discovery shocked the world and began to unravel the dark history of the Magdalene laundries. Decades later, survivors began to speak out. Their testimonies exposed the horrors they had endured: the physical and emotional abuse, the stolen children, the years of forced labor. Governments and the Catholic Church were forced to confront their roles in the atrocities.